think it's Wyborova. Wyborowa. Okay, it's Wyborowa. Wyborowa. Wybo for short is a genuine Polish vodka. Got it.
That most people think vodka was invented in Russia, and in fact, it was invented in Poland.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And there are so many different ones, but this one originated in 1927, and most today cannot say that.
No.
Welcome everyone to PoddiMouths. This is Vodka Talk with
It's Vodka
Nick and
Talk.
John.
That's what we're changing the name of the podcast to Vodka Talk.
Hey, we will get half the subscribers.
Oh, I thought you were going to say hammered. On my way. Cheers, John.
Possible. And cheers to you.
You have also.
You can't hear ice because
we have
them straight up. No ice in our happy hour cocktails tonight.
I was trying to remember, is this our first 2021 happy hour? Or is this our second 2020? I've only had one sip.
Can I speak candidly to you? And
of course,
everybody else just stop listening. When we have happy hour, I don't remember when the hell it was. Because it's a good happy hour. And by the end of
happy hour. Absolutely.
You know what it reminds me of? True story. A friend of mine used to, this was in the suburbs of Chicago, and we would all go out after work. This is before I was married. And that might have been after. She listens.
Yes, she does.
It was. And he told the story, and he was single, but he told the story how he would go to the bar after work and sit there and drink and find, somebody right after work and try to take them home. And again, this is many, many years ago, much freer sexual revolution sort of thing. And
so
then
back in the 60s?
No, more like the 80s. And he would take them home or to a hotel or to wherever. And then he would finish and then come back to the bar and pick up somebody else.
Wow.
And he said all the cougars came out early. And so they were waiting when he'd get there at 5:30 or whatever after work. And and then he would do the thing and then come back and look for another one.
Is he married now?
He is. Yes.
Does his wife know of this?
Nope, probably not.
Oh, well, hopefully she's not a listener.
No, I haven't spoken to him for, it's been 20 years probably. Not that we just kind of parted ways, parted company. You know how when you work with people sometimes in the past, not anymore because you and I work together and we'll love each other forever.
Right, exactly. Sure.
But not in a weird way.
Well, in a potty mouth way.
In a potty mouth way. But anyway, he would do that, and he'd do. It's a twofer. Wow,
that's great. So completely off that particular topic, but you do take me down one of those patented PoddiMouths rabbit holes. Do you have one of those friends or several? Because I'm lucky enough to have several that you might not talk to for 10 years, 5 years, maybe even 20 years, that when you see them or when you're in their company, it's like no time has passed.
Correct. I have certainly one who I've known for many, many years. I probably have three maybe like that. And I won't mention names, but one certainly knows who he is, but he's a nut rod anyway. So it's like he was always a nut rod and he's still a nut rod. And he's just a fun guy to talk. But you're right. It's like no time has passed and you just never stopped.
Yeah.
Your interaction.
Yeah. Well, strangely enough, my wife was like that. There were a couple of times where we didn't actually speak because we weren't dating, but we didn't speak for a very long period of time. I think the longest we went was 5 years. We never got married. Well, obviously. No, we still do that now. It's like we never stopped talking. I haven't
spoken to her for a week.
I know. But it seriously was. Every time we would get into the same room together, it was like, nope, I saw you yesterday. It's
Wow,
crazy. But yeah, I too have several friends that are like that, and
that's cool.
it's just so much fun. It's just so much fun because I don't with them, I'm so comfortable that I don't feel the need to necessarily have to maintain a relationship where I do with some other people that I do want to be friends with, that I want to pay attention to, that I want to make sure that they know that I care.
Yeah.
I have to force myself to reach out.
Mhm.
Whereas these people, I don't. Now, it's not saying that I don't reach out. I do try to, and I hope that they would too.
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm the same way. It is I think you said the key word is comfortable. You're comfortable with them, and so it's not like you're trying to prove anything or oh look how successful I am or look how whatever. It's
Yeah.
it's never about that. So yeah, and I enjoy that. I'm glad you asked that because that's a great question and very accurate.
And that takes me down another rabbit
Oh,
hole.
what a surprise!
I know. I had another conversation today with a friend of ours, a mutual friend, and we were talking about language, and we were actually talking about the new president and some of the things that he says off the cuff that aren't necessarily totally appreciated just because of his age. And my point to this person, it's Matt. It's
Yeah.
Matt Smollett. He doesn't
Yeah.
care. My point to this person was, it's a generational thing. And some of the things he says are not necessarily in his mind. He's not relating that to something that other people find offensive because it's people of my generation or of a younger generation, even than me, that find those things more offensive than his generation. And I'm including the people that he is referencing as well, who probably thought of themselves in a certain way.
Sure.
Not that it's right. I'm not saying at all that it's right, but it's of a specific generation that say certain things. And we're expecting that generation to change the way that they have been for the vast majority of their life based on our expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, I yes, please continue. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I completely forgot where I was going with
Well, no,
that entire thing.
I think that has changed. It seems like and there's so much that's changed because of the 24-hour news cycle.
Mhm.
And I'm going to
Cancel culture.
yeah, I'm going to do my best just to kind of pull back and not really get because the politics of it really aren't important right
No,
now,
not at all.
as far as I'm concerned. But I will say that people today are offended by a lot.
Yes.
And for some dude to say, for our president to say malarkey, for example,
Mhm.
hey, it's not something I would say. It's not something you or someone younger would say, but he doesn't mean it in a, it's not like it's intended to be malicious or anything.
Right.
So
Right. Well, okay. So thank you for saying that because that triggered where I was going with that. Matt and I were also talking about how our language in our generation, and and I are just a couple of years apart, that we kind of freak out the older generation because, Matt might look at me and say, "Hey, asshole." And I'll have this big smile on my face. And he said, whereas most of the people that were like his grandparents would look and go, "You just called that guy an asshole. Why didn't you punch him? You guys are just smiling." You called him a fucking asshole and you smiled. What the hell? And
but
that's so true too.
yeah, I don't think. I mean, I think that's generational, though. I think,
That's exactly his point.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's repetitive among generations. I think certain people, and it's certain friendships too. I mean, there are obviously you don't do that with all friendships.
Well,
But I don't even think about it because I'm
hey, asshole.
totally offended. My father-in-law, who passed away a few years ago, was very much that way, and he would just shoot from the cuff, and that was his thing. He would call people that, and they knew he was joking, or most of the time he was joking. But yeah, I think again, part of it is the sensitive side these days. The other part is not everybody engages that way, but it was always that way. It's not like you can say, well, everybody engaged that way and he was 80 years old. And so, no, that's not true. It's just different people and different personalities over time, over generations.
Very true. And different cultures within our culture.
Yeah, well said. That's really what it is, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Well, that was the end of the podcast. Great podcast.
Nice talking with all of you. Make sure you check out our website. This is why we don't do short ones.
Right?
Well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have more olives in your cocktail than you have vodka.
Now I do, yeah.
Let me see it again. And listeners, I'll describe it to you as best I can. 1, 2, 3,
4.
4 big olives. These are the Queen Anne olives, and I love them.
Yeah, and that's just because I did bring extra.
Oh, okay. And he has that's like a baby flask.
Well, I had a bigger flask, and this is a very sad day, and for all of our listeners who live in Seattle, and a lot of people we work with who are in Seattle because that's where we're headquartered.
Sure.
I have a flask, and it's my second newest because I did get a new flask for Christmas, which is ironic because I don't really use flasks all that much. But I did buy a flask in Seattle the last time I was there from one of the distilleries that we went to. A colleague and I went to, and it's a beautiful round flask with a piece of glass in the center so you can see the liquid contents. I loved it.
The other one you bought.
No. Well, that's kind of where I'm going with that. Okay. So that was the one I filled up this evening with my extra.
Oh, no.
And it started going out of the glass. Doop, doop,
weeping out of the glass.
It was weeping. So I had to go in. This is my little Jack Daniels.
Well,
I got this because I'm a Jack Daniels Squire.
Yes, I did know that.
This is my Jack Daniels Squire flask that they gave me.
Tell people what the Squire is. It's been several episodes since we talked about that.
I don't even know a good way to describe it. You'll have to go back and listen to that episode so you can.
Gosh, really?
And it's not labeled, so you'll have to listen to all of them until you find the right one.
You're gonna force those poor people.
Yes, I am.
Episodes.
Absolutely. Now, the Tennessee Squires, it's a fun little group or a fun little club you can be a part of that has to do with Jack Daniels. And it was something that my stepfather actually became a squire a long, long time ago, sometime in the 80s, I think. And you have to nominate someone to become a squire, and then they will give you a square inch it's either a square inch or a square foot. I never got the answer to that, of land on the Jack Daniels distillery property.
Really?
So you are a landowner, and then they send you updates. They send you calendars and things like that throughout the year about what's happening on your land. And sometimes you might get someone from one of your neighbors who accidentally let one of their sheep graze on your square foot of property. And it's hilarious. Hilarious. But you can actually go to the distillery, and if you're a squire, they will take you back into the private squire room, which is a museum of things that people over time have sent to the distillery. And there are a lot of big names that have been squires over the years, including astronauts and presidents and senators and things like that. So you have a lot of memorabilia in there from those. But if you're not a squire, you can't go in.
So you have to be nominated, and then is there some fee or some sort of a?
No, it's absolutely free.
Interesting.
If there's a fee, I never paid one, and I did. Craig is also a squire, because I nominated Craig a long time ago for.
Oh, nice! Yeah, I've never been nominated.
No, that's too bad, huh?
Asshole friends I have.
Fucking asshole.
I'm going to start a new one. It's going to be the Weebaroba. We're going to be the
Weebaroba Polacks,
the chieftains.
The chieftains. Oh, yeah. Careful! And that's not politically correct.
I think it is.
No, it's not.
It is. What is a chieftain?
Well, I don't know. What is a chieftain? It's a motorcycle, right?
Well, no. It is actually, and
I know it is.
Motorcycle?
What?
What's the brand of motorcycle?
Is it an Indian?
It is.
I like Indian.
That's so politically incorrect.
It is politically incorrect.
No, it's not. It's crap. You know what's ridiculous?
I
can't help it. Yes, I am. Is the football team from Washington?
Yes. They're changing that name.
So I'm going to make one point about that, and then I promise I'll move on.
Oh no, because I'm ready to go on this one. I had a conversation about that and one other team that I actually the rest of them. I honestly, I and I'm sorry, I'm completely walking over you and interrupting, but
Do it.
Matt Smolik and I had a conversation about this because one of his teams, his local teams, is also in the news because they're about to change their name. But the one thing that was in this article that I read about that, let me back up a little bit. I really don't care about the name changes. I really don't care. I'm not that big of a sports fan where I care about it until they started messing with my fifth favorite hockey team.
That's pretty funny.
They will always be the Chicago frickin' Blackhawks. I don't care what anyone says. They are the Chicago Blackhawks.
My fifth favorite hockey team. I bet they are delighted to fill that position in your
They should be
favorites.
They should be, because I loved watching Minnesota crush them, and I loved watching Nashville crush them. I loved watching the Canucks crush them.
Okay, wow. Sounds like they're your favorite whipping boys.
No, because I like watching them beat the Blues, and I like the Blues too.
Holy cow. Okay. But knowing that you're a weirdo, here's what I have to say. And it bothered me with they used to be called the Marquette Warriors, which is a college team, and they changed it to the Golden Eagles. I have a hard time saying it without a lisp. Here's the thing. And look, there are people who put words into the mouths of the Native American community, and they say they don't like it. It's not fair to them. It's not good. You know what? I
want to know how many people asked.
I find that an inordinate amount of people who are complaining the loudest are not of color. Yeah. If you consider my peach skin to be not of color,
right?
It just look, if it's offensive, it's offensive, and I'm not sure how any of these names would have gotten to be sports team names if they were offensive from the start. Right. They are holding up these Warriors. They're holding up these, and I understand Redskins might not be the Washington Whiteskins, but I'm not. Call them what you want. I don't care.
I've never worn a pair of Red Sox.
I have.
I wear plenty of White Sox.
I think I tie-dyed them. I did. Yeah. The red one.
Yeah. I have a tough time with the Minnesota Moose. To me, that's cultural appropriation.
There are several moose that are not happy about that. I think
I've heard.
Yeah.
Mainly because there aren't very many moose left in Minnesota. Most of them have moved to Alaska.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the Bears have offended several zoo dwellers.
Or the Cubs.
Cubs. To baby bears. They're going after the babies, and to me that's
that's wrong.
Look, I don't mean to minimize it, but I'm telling you, I think when you're holding up these as names of honor and it's not like the Atlanta Braves. They're not saying, well, that's cultural appropriate. You don't put a name on it, but they're holding these people up as, I want to be like them. This is what our team is.
That's what they were meant to be.
It's
absolutely.
A position of honor. No one would name their team. Well, the Ducks maybe, but other than that.
So you don't think that anyone should name, they shouldn't name any team after a movie?
I don't, right. Nice. But it's true. I just don't understand that stuff. And it makes me roll my eyes, but there are several things about professional sports, especially, that have caused me to roll my eyes over the last year.
A lot. Yes.
And
except for the Masters.
I'm a big golf fan because you know what? They STFU and do not say anything about. Seriously, it's sports. Stop bringing politics into it, because I escape the normal world of all the BS that we go through sports. Not anymore. I don't.
Right. Well, college sports.
Some, but I know a particular athletic director that had to position them as being supportive of a communist group. And I'm sorry, I'm out.
We're going to have to talk a little bit more about that one offline.
Yeah.
All I know is the one that owns the Mercedes dealership.
Yes. So anyway, this is what happens on happy hour, everybody.
Right? We get angry. Angry. You need to stop drinking vodka and become like Russian angry. I don't know if Russians are angry.
What would you drink?
Cultural appropriation.
Russian angry, other than vodka.
The cold.
I don't know. Let's have a glass of. Do we have any Zima left?
Oh, Zima. That stuff's horrible.
Did you ever drink it? I mean,
yes, of course I did. It came out when I was in high school. Come on.
It came out when you came out.
Yeah. Wow. Anywho, let's talk about Mercedes, because I honored you with a statement this week when we were talking about my Mercedes.
Yes.
And I'm obviously, because we don't talk about it on this podcast, I'm not going to mention the OE that I still work for. Yes. But I was going to visit my dealerships this past week, and I needed an oil change, badly.
Mm-hmm. And so did the car.
Right. And actually, I needed it last week, but I was able to get it this week because every single dealership that I went to, I said, hey, would you mind doing an oil change on my car? And they're like, nope, we don't work on Mercedes. Not going to do it. I'm like, that's not a typical Mercedes engine. That engine is also the same as what's in another car that you actually work on. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, we know, but we're not going to do it. I went to 3 different dealerships, and the third one was finally the one that would say, yeah, we'll work on it. So they did the oil change. And I could have
oil change.
It's just an oil change.
Doing an overhaul or anything.
Well, it wasn't just an oil change.
Oh,
we'll keep that in mind, because this is where I honored you with
oh boy.
You're a right. You don't remember this? You were so excited when I told you this. Anyway, so the reason I didn't go to a Mercedes dealership is because there were no Mercedes dealerships in the area that had appointments open for the next 2 weeks. I went to, there's another global place here in Nashville. They have 4 locations that work on Mercedes, and couldn't get in there either fast enough.
Yeah.
And the first appointment, I was, 500 miles away, so I couldn't go.
No.
So anyway, I found this dealer who would actually work on it. The other part of it was, and this is where John comes in. Remember, I got all 4 tires changed because that was hopefully going to change the shaking in my wheels, according to the last Mercedes dealership I went to.
And it did when you replaced them.
It did for a little bit, but then it started shaking again. So I thought, the way it felt, I said, I think it's my rear rotors, because those were the tires that were the worst. Mm-hmm. And that was what the original dealer that I bought it from had said, is I think the back tires are bad because I think there's something wrong with the brakes. We got all the brakes replaced. Okay. So I said, check the rotors for me and see if they can be turned or if I have to replace them. So finally, this third dealer looked at them and said, it's actually your front rotors, which have warped your pads. So we can turn the rotors, but we'll have to replace the pads. But we can't get the pads for a week.
Wow.
So I said, can't do that. Can you just at least turn the rotors? Yeah, we'll turn the rotors, but get your pads replaced as soon as you can, because otherwise it's just going to warp the rotors again. But it's better to do it that way than
the other way around.
Yeah, right. So I said, go ahead and turn them. They tried for an hour. They didn't have the machine or the adapters to the machine to turn the rotors. So, and I was watching through the window, and I felt so bad. They had 4 technicians trying to work on it.
Yeah.
Trying to get it to work, and they couldn't do it. So I didn't get my rotors turned. So I still have to find someone that will go in and either turn or replace the rotors. But I got to look at these, and these are beefy rotors.
That's what you said. They're very thick, and
they're thick. They're like truck rotors. I mean, they're huge.
Which is good because you can turn them more than once if you need to.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. What happens is you get some that are manufactured to much smaller tolerances that you turn them once, maybe twice, and they're paper thin, and that's all you have. Now you do rotors, and they are not typically cheap.
They are not cheap. But the interesting thing was going to this dealership, all in, it would have cost me to do my oil change, to replace the rotors and the pads. Replace, not turn them. This is what the price they originally quoted me. Altogether, it would have been $320.
What?
Yeah. $320.
Oh,
How much do you think it would have cost me at a Mercedes dealership?
at
For the
least
two fronts.
at least twice that.
At least twice that.
I'd say
easily.
Maybe three times.
I walked out of there having spent $80
Wow.
for an oil change.
Nice people.
Very nice people. And if I could tell you who they were, I'd highly recommend them, but I can't.
Understood. Well, and so
I got a bottle of wine out of it.
That would be nice. That to me is one of the. It's kind of a catch-22 when you talk about, am I going to lease a car or am I going to buy a nice pre-owned like you did? Mm-hmm. Because I go back and forth. We had a very nice, I can say a very nice Lexus LS430. So it was a 2005. Had it several years ago, and it was a terrific car. I mean, I've always loved the flagship Lexus, the LS model. Oh my gosh, just a wonderful car. And but any problems we had, it's out of pocket, and anything that went wrong, it's not covered by warranty. And admittedly, it wasn't $70,000 either, like new ones were back then. But it's just a trade-off. Everything is a trade-off. Leasing, your payments are going to be a little higher. You don't own it, but you're under warranty, and so all you pay for is maintenance. And I don't even pay for that on the Cadillac because it was all part of the lease deal.
There are definitely trade-offs. Definitely trade-offs. And I'm riding in an extremely comfortable car. I don't mind riding for a long period of time. Excuse me. It's heavy. It's safe. It's all-wheel drive. It's a fantastic car. Is it expensive to maintain? Not especially expensive to maintain unless you've got to do major repairs. And I would consider this a major repair. Changing the brakes, no. Changing the rotors, yes.
Well, it's still maintenance.
It is maintenance. It is, and it's something you have to do with every vehicle. But like you said, in some cases, that particular those things are not under warranty. But I've spent a good amount of money.
They are if you buy it new. I'm sorry to interrupt.
What?
If you buy it new, that's under warranty.
Yes. Yeah.
Rotors
would be right,
but for 3 years.
Right. So you do have some trade-offs, and I've spent roughly $1,500 on this car more closer to $2,000 on this car since I bought it. Mm-hmm. But like you said, brand new, this car is $45,000. I paid half.
Less than that.
Yeah, a lot less than that. A lot less than that.
Yeah.
Almost half.
Yeah.
So is it worth it? Sure. I'm still not anywhere near a brand new Mercedes, and I'm still driving. It's the same model as the brand new Mercedes.
Yep.
The C300 in 2017 is almost exactly the same thing as the C300 in 2021.
How many people watching you drive by are going to say, that's not a new one?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Except when it's dirty like it is right now.
Well, and I used to say that I would not mind, especially if it's a very nice car, I wouldn't mind having one with, I don't need something with 20,000 miles on it. I'm okay with something with 50 or 70 or whatever, because you can't see the odometer from the sidewalk.
That's true. Very true.
People drive, and that's the prestige buyer. I always wanted to drive a nicer car than I could really afford. Mm-hmm. So if it had high miles, I don't care.
Well, and that's why you buy used. It really is. Well, that's not the only reason, but that's why most people would buy used.
You can buy it's not unlike leasing in a sense that you can have a nicer vehicle than you might be able to pay cash for.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not why I did it, as we had said in a previous episode. I did it because I knew it was a comfortable car, and I knew it was a good car, and it was a lot less than my last car, which was what people consider a very cheap car.
Mm-hmm.
So why not drive something? It's less.
Really?
Yes. I paid less on the Mercedes with
Wow.
31,000 miles on it
Wow.
than I did my last car.
And you bought that last car new?
Brand new.
Yeah. Okay. And so I did too. And it's, of course, our OEM that we and I worked for at the time, or worked on behalf of. I bought one of their vehicles, and I love it. It's a neat vehicle.
I still own one of their vehicles,
and it's fine. It's just it was also more than your Mercedes was, and at some point you go, So next time around, I'm not sure what I'm pretty certain we're not going to lease. We would love to get down to two vehicles plus the Harley. I don't know.
I thought you were down to two vehicles plus the Harley.
Sorry, one vehicle plus the Harley.
Oh, okay. You were confusing me there. I'm like, sorry, what car do you have that I don't know of?
I've been hiding one from you.
Yeah.
It's Maybach.
Nice.
No, it's not.
It would fit with the martini, right?
I'm sure Maybach will be good. We could be drinking martinis in the back seat of a Maybach.
Mm-hmm.
While we have our driver, one of the Matts, driving it.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that would be good.
I think so too.
Take us to the ice cream.
Well, why wouldn't you lease though? If you were able to go down to one vehicle plus the Harley.
Well, I'm not saying I wouldn't. I get tired of the same thing. I like to own from time to time. So, for instance, the truck that we have, I bought because it was 0% interest for 48 months.
Right.
Why not? Financially, it made a lot of sense to just do that. We could pay cash for it, although I'm not paying cash for a new vehicle.
Well, no, one of my dealers said once, and I like how he said this. You should never pay cash for a depreciating asset.
Yes. And what it's like is you seriously just dig a hole in the ground and throw some money in. Mm-hmm. It's different from a boat. A boat is just take your money to the water and throw it in the water.
Right.
That's different.
And hopefully it floats.
Yes, for the next guy to come up and get it. The one who just sold his or her boat. Yes. Anyway, I would consider leasing again, but I'm not sure. There are certain vehicles, and this is me and my mindset, that I would not lease. One is a Jeep.
Yeah, and
I don't know why I want to own a Jeep.
Right.
I do.
Well, I know why you want to own a Jeep.
Well, I don't want to own a Jeep as expensive as they are. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Keep going.
Well, tell me why.
No, because no. I had the same conversation with Mr. Smolik today, because he rented a Jeep Wrangler, because that was what he had a couple of different options. He's like, I'm going to rent it because Nick talks about him all the time. He's incessant. Yes, he talks about it incessantly.
Incessantly, yes.
Yeah. And he said, I would never pay 40 grand for this Jeep. And I said, well, you'd be paying 40 grand for the cheapest version. True. And he said, I don't understand. I mean, it's fun to drive around town, but it's horrible if you've got to drive it any distance. It's a horrible, horrible vehicle. And I'm like, it takes a specific type of driver, and it's the value. I mean, you might spend $40,000 on it, but you could put 75,000 miles on it, and 5 years from now sell it for 30 grand.
Pretty accurate.
It holds its value.
They do, and
that's the only way they can get away with it being so expensive.
Yeah, well, for sure.
If they couldn't, I don't think they would be that expensive.
I would totally agree with you. I think that, and yeah, you can prove it in many ways, like Harley-Davidson, for example. When you, at one point, are the only kid on the block, and your customer base is built in, and they're not aging rapidly like it is today. You think you have the license to print money, and then one day you wake up and say, "Oh crap, we forgot about next year and 10 years from now and 15 years from now." anyway, that's to me what it becomes. But nobody has really come up with a vehicle that competes.
Until, well, we're still talking about, I was going to say the Bronco.
Maybe, but it hasn't been proven yet.
No.
You have 100,000 people, probably more than that, with $100 deposit down on Broncos.
Yeah.
My guess would be 25% of those will actually take delivery, maybe less.
Yeah. I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah, that's just a guess, but it still has to prove itself in durability and off-road worthiness and things like that.
And I'm glad you say it like that, because and I'm sorry to keep interrupting. It's the vodka. I blame the vodka. But I've been watching a lot of videos on the Bronco and comparing it to the Wrangler and comparing it to even the Toyota 4Runner and the new Range Rover. There's a new Range Rover, and I keep forgetting the name. It's, the Range Rover that they discontinued in the 80s. It looked like a Jeep. It's but they've brought it back. So it's supposed to be the high end version of an off-road vehicle. So been watching a lot of the videos about that on YouTube. And the one thing I've noticed about the Bronco, because they did spend a lot of time on the Bronco, was it's a good looking vehicle. A lot of things that were done on the vehicle were well thought out. A lot of them mimic Jeep, because they said Jeep has so many years of developing this vehicle since World War II that they have tried and true things that they've tested over and over and over again. They've done all the tests. They've done all the R&D, and we can just take it and put it on ours and it'll be great. Right.
Yeah.
So they've been talking about it, and it's a good looking car, and you can see all of the things they've done, and it all makes sense. But that's the key right there. What you said is it hasn't been tested. It hasn't. They have not. That's where Jeep has the advantage right now, is everything on it is very basic. It's been around since the 30s and 40s. It has been tested over and over and over again. And that's why the vehicle, it's as good as it looks, the vehicle is still very basic in its design and construction.
Yes. But here's what I'll say. It's no longer the Jeep it was.
Oh, God, no. God, no, not whatsoever.
It's not even close. It doesn't resemble what it used to be. Now, in some ways that's good. And in some ways it's not so good, because it's made of shared parts and shared power plants and things like that. And again, not that it's bad as long as it's done appropriately. I drove the Wrangler Unlimited.
Yeah,
I read
in Seattle
about that, and it was surprisingly good to me. And I've driven Jeeps for years, not like you, but I've rented them before and had friends who had them and so on. And 15 years ago, it's twice the vehicle it was then. Far as driving on the road, now off-road, I can't speak to that because they frown on it when I take it off road in a rental.
Yeah.
But just in terms of the niche it fills, it's a pretty special vehicle. I've told you before, the Hummer, and I did everything with Hummer. I worked on their team to introduce the new models, and the H1 and the H2 and the H3, which was, it doesn't matter. But the 1 and 2 were incredible off-road. And actually, the H3 was pretty impressive too. It just didn't have a great power plant in my humble estimation. A 5-cylinder, really.
Well, the new Bronco Sport has a 3-cylinder.
Does it really?
Yes, it does.
I think I recall hearing about that, but I didn't look into it. Anyway, they would eat up anything the Jeeps ever made off-road.
Well, that's why the military switched from Jeep to Hummer.
Well, yes and no.
I know it's not the same. I know it's not exactly the same.
No, it's not. And I know you would know that. They were great off-road vehicles. But the H1 Alpha was $110,000. And the H2 was, back then when they still made it, 60 or 70. Again, sadly falling prey to GM's inability back then. I won't Judge Mary Barra's GM now, but the way it was back then, they were unable to manage the corporation. Hence the loss of Oldsmobile, Pontiac, Saturn, and Hummer.
The more I learn about Saturn, because we have quite a few people that we work with that came from Saturn. Yep. It's which I didn't know back then, but it's very sad how that completely went on. We won't get into that, but I
will say on their behalf because truly it was a unique concept, and the long and short of it is they were starved for product, new product.
They're starved for product, but it was not an unsuccessful model line.
The process was very successful. How they sold and how they interacted with customers, but at some point you have to support it with better products, and they were incapable at the corporate level.
Let's say too late, because there were the last couple that came out were very impressive.
We'll agree upon too little, too late.
Too little, too late. Yeah. Same with Oldsmobile. I mean, that's what my step family grew up on. Was they were Oldsmobile dealers.
That was the first car I sold. In fact, that was the first manufacturer I worked for at a dealership. It was an Olds Cadillac Dual, and we sold the heck out of Cutlass Supreme.
Oh yeah, I mean they were just. I wouldn't say it's the only thing we ever drove, but we had a lot. I mean, in our family we had 3 Tornados.
Not at the
same time. Yeah, we had a Bravada. We had an Aurora. You know, we had a ton of Oldsmobiles. Obviously, because that was the family dealership, but still.
Well, and sadly, they just made some bad decisions. The Cutlass Supreme was a wonderful car from the mid 70s to the 80s, early 80s. And then they tried to make everything a Cutlass so they could claim that the nameplate did so well. So you had the Cutlass Calais and the Cutlass Sierra, and it was ridiculous, but this is just the games that they would play, not knowing what it was doing to the brand. It's no different than what Acura did to their brand.
Right. Now, I will say this, and this is what I think we need. I don't want to end it because this is a really good conversation, but I do want to end it on this. The one car that I'm really attracted to that I thought was the silliest car I've seen in a long time, which it should make sense because I do like the Volvo station wagon, the sporty one, the one that looks like the off-road one, if you want to call it that. Yeah. But the Buick Regal wagon. Have you seen that one?
I have. It's a very good-looking vehicle.
It is a very good-looking car. I would drive one of those.
I'm proud of them for bringing that back, and I don't know what it does in volume. Certainly, we could find out, but it's very attractive vehicle.
It is.
I've always been partial. I shouldn't say this. I'm not sure because I have the memory of what the old wagons used to be. Well, seriously, I had my stepfather was a funeral director. Okay. And so he had one of those old Chevy wagons, the full size, where the tailgate would drop down into the body of the car. And so you could slide a casket in, which was, and it just creeped me out the whole time. Hey, you want to take the wagon? Hell no. Well, on a date, you got plenty. No, I'm not taking the wagon. I think my brothers did when they were forced to. But anyway,
oh wow!
That's the measure or the
I could see how you'd have a problem with that. So, but that's it. You agree with me? It's a good looking car. I don't think we could fit a casket in it, but it is a good looking car.
Well, it'd have to be a small one, maybe for a.
Oh wow! Wow, a dog. Yeah. Anyway.
Wow, you just look at me and wow me.
Yeah, and you haven't had a drink. I've been watching you're gonna have to finish up. So pour something because I got a little bit left, and we have to end on a toast.
You have one olive left.
I have one olive and it's not even a full shot. So come on, pour yourself a little shot there.
I have one. It's not like I've been.
All right. So to all of those listeners We're giving you, we're toasting you right now to all those listeners who will go to our website right now, PoddiMouths.com, or when you're done driving, if you're listening to us while we're driving, or for those of you who are walking and listening, Mr. Taylor.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that right now. But toast to all of you who are going to the website, who are subscribing to the podcast, who are going to our social media or commenting on the website itself, sending us messages, giving us ideas for the next Potty Corner, which we did not do today.
We skip it often, don't we?
Well, if we don't have anything good, we're not going to put anything up. We didn't have anything good the last time. So, and to those who are enjoying the podcast during happy hour, cheers to you. Visit PoddiMouths.com. Do some drunk searching on our merch store so you can buy a lot of shit. Visit Bill's merch store and his vehicle nanny, which, by the way, I did talk to him today, and I had to, where did I put the note? Because there was something Bill was going to pass along. He said, because, Bill's hilarious, and he said, vehicle nanny goes back to school. Just call me Dr. Nanny.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more later, maybe on the next episode. That's our teaser for the next episode.
Post our brackets here, so it sounds like
there you go.
Here. And here's what I'm saying: if anybody is doing merch store drunkenness buys, I mean, if you insist to do it, but I have a hard time envisioning people doing the, hey, let's go over to PoddiMouths and buy some masks, or maybe a couple of T-shirts. Do they have those shorts? Maybe I'd like
the shorty shorts. Yeah, we do. Yeah. It's got PoddiMouths on the back.
Oh, gosh, that would have to be wide though. In order to
extreme. I did use a high-res logo.
Huge font. Yeah. It has been a joy to have you all with us. Thanks for joining. And we'll talk to you again next week for sure.
See ya.